Picture this. You are 3 days deep into the backcountry, the temperature is dropping, the sky turns black. You reach into your pack for the gear you spent $600 on. The gear the box promised was military grade and built for survival. And one by one, it fails you. The filter clogs, the blade snaps at the handle, the tent seam splits under the rain, the stove regulator won't seat. None of this is a worst-case fantasy. These are documented failure modes reported every season by hikers, hunters, and emergency responders, and they all share a pattern. The brands behind these failures used to be different, they used to be respected. Then they were acquired, restructured, and rebuilt around margin instead of mission. This is not about hating brands, this is about understanding what happened to them, what to look for on a spec sheet, and how to stop buying gear that is engineered to be replaced. This is the Survival Blacklist. 5 brands whose modern production runs no longer match their reputation, and the brand at number 1 is sitting in almost every prepper's bug-out bag right now. Here is the part of the outdoor industry that doesn't make it into the catalog. Over the last 15 years, a wave of private equity buyouts swept through the gear market. Brands that used to be family-owned or engineer-led got rolled into portfolio companies. Production moved offshore to chase lower labor costs, and the bill of materials, the actual spec list of what's inside the product, got quietly downgraded. A 1000 denier Cordura became a 600 denier nylon. A YKK zipper became a generic equivalent. A full tang steel became a stick tang. The logo stayed the same, the product changed. The mountain doesn't care about logos. It cares about materials, construction, and tolerances. When gear fails at 15,000 feet or at 20 below zero, the warranty department isn't standing next to you. So we built this list the only honest way. We pulled spec sheets, we compared modern production runs to vintage examples, we read field failure reports from long-distance hikers and SAR teams, and we ranked the results from concerning to genuinely dangerous. Let's start with number 5. Coleman. The name carries weight. For nearly a century, Coleman built lanterns, stoves, and shelters that defined American camping. Today, Coleman operates under Newell Brands, a consumer goods holding company that also owns Sharpie, Rubbermaid, and Mr. Coffee. The shelter division was reorganized to fit a mass retail price model, and the engineering reflects that decision. Look at the modern Coleman entry-level dome tents. The fly is typically a 75 denier polyester taffeta with a 450 to 600 millimeter polyurethane coating. For reference, a Sirius 3-season tent runs a 1,200 to 1,500 millimeter hydrostatic rating. That gap is the difference between staying dry in a steady rain and waking up in a puddle. The poles are solid fiberglass, which is heavier than aluminum and far more brittle in cold temperatures. Below freezing, fiberglass becomes glass. It doesn't bend back, it splinters. The seams on the budget line are heat-taped at the factory, but the tape adhesive has a known shelf life. After 2 or 3 seasons in storage, that tape begins to delaminate, and the seams start wicking water. None of this means Coleman has no place in the market. For a backyard sleepover in July, it functions. The problem is that beginners don't know the limits. They see weatherproof on the box and take it into terrain that demands a real shelter. A tent is not a decoration. It is a life support system with a stake count. If you are buying shelter for anything beyond a calm summer night, the Coleman budget line is the wrong tool. Look at brands like Big Agnes, REI Co-op, or Nemo for entry points that respect the engineering. Number 4. The snapping blade, Gerber. Founded in Portland, Oregon in 1939, a name that earned its reputation through military contracts and serious field tools. In 1987, Gerber was acquired by Fiskars, the Finnish conglomerate best known for orange-handled scissors. Some Gerber lines, particularly the Made in USA range, still hold up, but the bulk of the modern lineup tells a different story. The budget and mid-tier Gerber fixed blades are typically built with 7CR17MOV steel. That is a low-carbon Chinese stainless. It is corrosion-resistant, which sounds good, but it has a Rockwell hardness in the 54 to 56 range and poor edge retention. In practical terms, the edge rolls under heavy cutting and dulls within hours of bushcraft work. Compare that to a 1095 carbon steel or a CPM-S35VN, which hold an edge through full processing of a deer. The bigger structural issue is the tang. Many budget Gerber fixed blades use a partial tang, sometimes called a rat tail or stick tang. The steel narrows down to a thin rod that's set into a hollow polymer handle. Under lateral force, batoning through wood, prying a stuck blade, or hard chopping, the stress concentrates at that narrowing point. That is where the blade breaks. A field knife should be full tang. The steel should run the entire length and width of the handle. The scales bolt or pin onto the steel. This is not luxury construction. It is the minimum standard for a tool you might depend on for shelter, fire, or first aid. The branding on the budget Gerbers obscures the construction. If you are buying a survival fixed blade, look at Morakniv Garberg, ESEE 4 or 5, or Benchmade Bushcrafter. These are full tang, properly heat-treated, and built to the standard the marketing implies. Number 3. The Walmart Trap. Ozark Trail, the house brand of Walmart, manufactured by a rotating roster of contract suppliers across Asia. The pricing is genuinely attractive. A 4-piece cook set for $20, a backpack for $40, a sleeping bag for $30. The numbers feel like a win. Then you look at the construction. The cookware is typically a thin-gauge aluminum, often in the 0.4 to 0.6 millimeter range. For comparison, a quality backpacking pot from MSR or Snow Peak runs 0.8 to 1.0 millimeters with a hard anodized surface. The Ozark Trail pots warp on direct flame, develop hot spots, and the thin walls transmit heat unevenly, which scorches food and burns fuel inefficiently. The canister stoves use brass and plastic in the valve assembly, where higher-tier stoves use full brass machined components. Plastic next to a flame source has obvious failure modes. The pot supports are stamped steel, light gauge, and they bend permanently after a few uses. The sleeping bags rely on a hollow fiber synthetic insulation that loses loft quickly. The advertised temperature rating is measured at the manufacturer's lab under ideal conditions, with no consideration for compression cycles. After 10 to 15 uses, the bag rated to 30 degrees is functionally rated to 50. The deeper problem is the support model. There are no replacement parts, no customer service line for a broken buckle, a stripped pole section, or a torn zipper pull. When it breaks, the system is designed for you to throw it out and buy another one. That is not gear ownership. That is a subscription disguised as a purchase. For comparable money, used gear from quality brands on platforms like REI, Used Gear, Gear Trade, or local Facebook groups will outlast 3 generations of Ozark Trail. Buy once, maintain it, pass it down. Number 2, the Tactical Illusion, 511 Tactical. This one is uncomfortable because the brand still carries weight in law enforcement and military communities. In the early 2000s, 5.11 built genuinely tough gear. Real 1000 denier cordura, genuine YKK zippers, ITW Nexus buckles, reinforced Bartak stitching at every stress point. It was made in America and it earned its price. The modern 5.11 catalog tells a different story. Most of the soft goods are now produced in Vietnam, China, and the Philippines. You can see this in the field. Long-term users have documented seam separation on Rush 12 and Rush 24 packs after loads they used to carry without issue. Zipper tracks fail earlier. Compression strap stitching gives out at the Bartak. If you need a pack you can depend on under load, look at Mystery Ranch, Hill People Gear, Kafaru, or Eberle stock. These companies still build at the spec their reputation was earned on, and they publish the materials list. Number 1. The False Lifeline, LifeStraw, the blue tube that became the icon of preparedness culture. Drink from any source, stay alive anywhere. The marketing built an empire on a single image. The engineering tells a more limited story. The standard LifeStraw uses a hollow fiber membrane with a 0.2 micron pore size. That filtration level removes bacteria and protozoa, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, E. coli. What it does not remove is viruses. Viruses, including hepatitis A, rotavirus, and norovirus, are typically 0.02 to 0.1 microns, well below the filter's capability. In most North American backcountry water sources, this is acceptable, because viral load in remote wilderness streams is low. In disaster scenarios, post-flood water, sewage contamination, or international travel in regions with poor sanitation, the risk profile changes completely. The straw provides a sense of safety that doesn't match its actual specification. The second limitation is operational. LifeStraw advertises a 4,000-liter capacity. That number assumes clear water. In real conditions, water with sediment, tannins, or organic load, the membrane clogs significantly faster. There's a backflushing protocol, but recovery is partial, and there is no visual indicator when filtration performance has degraded. You cannot tell from looking at the straw whether it is still working. For wilderness use in clean alpine sources, the standard LifeStraw is a reasonable backup. For anything involving viral risk, you need either chemical purification, like aquatabs or potable aqua, used in combination with the filter, or a system rated for virus removal, the Sawyer Squeeze paired with purification tablets, the Katahdin Pocket Microfilter, the MSR Guardian, which is the system used by military and humanitarian field teams. LifeStraw is not the worst product on this list. It is the most misunderstood, and in a real emergency, misunderstanding your equipment is the most dangerous failure of all.